Okay, just going live, although there's no one here. So I'll give it a minute. Let me see if I can get this working. Hmm. Hello, hello, hello. Is there anybody out there? All right, so perhaps I did not set something up right because I don't see a single person watching. Who knows what's going on with that? So I'll just wait a second or two, at least until there is a single person. Huh. I think I'm live, but is there anybody there? Hey, Rev's here. Okay, so I'm actually live. That's good to see. Hey, I've been watching the House of Reps stuff this morning. Little more nonsense, and right now Biden is just whole cloth making stuff up about what happened 2 years ago. It's really interesting. Okay. Jesse's here. What's up? Okay. Well, I'll get started here in just a second. I'm going to try doing something. Let's see if I totally screw this up. Let's see if this works. Okay. Okay. So interesting. It looks like I have one person watching, although a couple people have commented. So I'm not sure what that means. Let's take a look over at Rumble. Rumble, I'm still not live. I've got a coffee cup spinning. For whatever reason, Rumble doesn't seem to cut in immediately. It comes in later. I'm not sure why. Still learning. And over on Odyssey, looks like I've been going for about a minute, although I think I'm the only person there as well. Okay. I guess I'll get started. It's interesting. It says that only one person is watching, but I'm watching. So you're here? All right. Bill's here. So that's all we need. Now that Bill is here, let's get things going. Welcome. It is Friday, January 6th, 2023. I'm so glad you could join me for this welcome back edition of Fact Check Friday. I've got a couple stories to talk about today. We're going to talk about Turkey. That's the country, not the bird. They have a new name, or they've rebranded, right? Turkey 2.0. I will give you a quick little update about the House, day 4 shenanigans. What's going on there? Maybe they've taken a break there to watch Biden just make stuff up as well. I don't know. I do want to touch on Apple's new AI narration and kind of a sign of things to come. And lastly, I'm going to hit Fact Check Friday. We'll get to that in just a couple of minutes because I don't have a whole lot to say about all of these topics. But let's go to the first story. But first, flame on, right? Because we need a torch, we need live fire when we're speaking the truth. You can light your own tea light at home if you want to play the home version. Okay. Oh, you're in Albany. Cool. Very nice. Not far away. I love their summer concert series that they have down there in Albany, Oregon. The 4 big concerts, and they bring in some pretty big people. I actually saw one of the last public appearances of Smash Mouth last year, before the guy went off the rails and just called an end to the band, I think. But they played down in Albany. But let us get to the first topic of the day, and that is the country of Turkey. Now, the U.S. State Department has announced that it will use the spelling Turkiye, Turkiye, instead of Turkey as we know it, in most formal diplomatic and bilateral contexts, following a request from the country's embassy. Turkiye is the Turkish language spelling of the country's name, which has been in use by Turkish people since the country's establishment in 1923. The decision to adopt a new spelling comes around 6 months after Turkey officially changed its name at the UN, and follows President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's push for the rest of the world to use the Turkish language name. The State Department has previously adopted name changes requested from other countries, including Swaziland, which became known as the Kingdom of Eswatini in 2018. So you can see that, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Technically, they've put an umlaut, right, the 2 dots, over the U in Turkey. My own personal thing with that is, in English, I don't use any umlauts, circumflex, enyas, any of the other things, because it's in English, and it's difficult to use on a keyboard. It's hard to find them, so I think it's best just to avoid the punctuation marks on foreign words, typically. It is annoying, I think. For example, here in Portland, we have a, Cesar A. Chavez Boulevard, but it has a little accent mark. But we don't put little accent marks. If you live on that street and you go to the DMV, they don't put the little accent mark on your driver's license. Often they won't put it on checks and things like that. So I think it's best just to do away with that. But that's Turkey. They're now Turkey, but just spelled slightly different. I don't know if we're going to change the pronunciation to Turkiye, which I guess is closer to how they say it in Turkish. But I think we'll just still call it Turkey. That's what I think about that. Speaking of Fact Check Friday, I'm really looking forward to next week because I just started watching Biden give his remarks about what happened 2 years ago on January 6th. And it is unbelievable what he is claiming. Unbelievable. There are so many things already that he said that are demonstrably not true. So I think that will be a fun one to recap and to go through. But that's next week. This week, we need to talk about the Speaker of the House. Now, it's day 4. They've already had a couple votes this morning. And I think they're down to about 7 holdouts. The rest have voted the rest of the Republicans have voted for McCarthy, but doesn't matter. You got to get nearly all of them. And of these 7 that are holding out, I don't think that they will change their mind. They're pot invested. They've got too much in it now to to change. They've said they're never going to vote for him. And if you're a politician and you say something and you say, I will never do this, you can't change your mind. That's why you probably shouldn't ever say never. But it reminds me back with George Bush Sr., right? He said, read my lips, no new taxes. And then he added taxes. He was done. His political career was over. You can't make a definitive statement such as, I will never vote for McCarthy, and turn around and do it. So I think this is going to go on all day, and I don't think that we're going to see McCarthy get the speakership that he is looking for. But who knows? I don't know. Let me know what you think. Do you think this is going to go on until next week? That would be my prediction. Okay. So next up, I want to talk about some AI. Oh, there we go. Apple has introduced a new AI thing, if you will. Apple's launched digital narration for its books service, allowing authors and publishers to produce audiobooks using text-to-speech, artificial intelligence, AI, rather than human narrators. Digital narration will make audiobook creation more accessible to all, said Apple, reducing costs and complexity for producers, and could allow smaller publishers and authors to put out an audiobook at a lower price. Initially, the service will only be available in English for romance and fiction books narrated by Madison and Jackson. Those are their two voices that they have for their AI. The service is expected to be expanded to nonfiction, and other voices are in development. The move is in contrast to Amazon's Audible service, which requires human narrators. So this is an interesting development. I think if AI can read, why not? If it's easier to do, why not? Now, what I think would be really fun, I would love to be a voice for AI or for narration. I'm sure it would be possible now just to take me speaking with the hundreds of videos that I've made and use that as a source, that you could produce an AI that would have me reading a book. I think that'd be pretty cool. I've actually been asked my whole life, actually, I'm told constantly that, oh, are you a broadcaster, or do you do voiceovers? Are you on the radio? When I meet people in public, for whatever reason, I think my voice resonates with them, and it has the texture and sound of what people think of when they think of a narrator. So I would love it, personally, if I could have my own. It says, narrated by Madison and Jackson. Perhaps Tom will be coming soon. I think that would be cool. But it is interesting that Apple is going with AI, and Amazon right now requires a human narrator. I expect everyone will have AI narrators in the near future as this technology develops more and more. So that's my take on that. And now, what you've all been waiting for. It is, hello, hello, hello. Okay, I'm back. I'm not sure how long I was gone. Let me start this segment over again. I'm not sure what happened there, but I'm still working on the tech stuff. I didn't do anything, I swear. It's Fact Check Friday, And eventually I'll have the little intro with some music, but yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that soon. I thought there'd be so much that I could fact check. I went to the New York Times to see what kind of fact checking they did last year, and they didn't. And I think in 2021, they had one fact checking story. One. Actually, let me go back. In 2022, they had one fact checking story. That's it. It's as if, Trump goes away and they no longer need to fact check anything. Well, what did they fact check last year? The one story that they did. It was about Trump's announcement to run for president. The entire year, one fact check, and it had to have been about Trump. Kind of shows you where their focus is, doesn't it? But rather than get on that, I decided to see if I could find a fact check from someone that I admire and see if I can find an issue with them that may be incorrect. It's easy to fact check somebody you don't like because you can misinterpret things, talk about how terrible they are, etc. But two people that I really like, and I don't like everything about everyone, right? I don't agree with myself from like a year ago. So there's no one on the planet that I agree with 100%. But two people that I do like are Tucker Carlson and Tulsi Gabbard, of all people. And I admire the work that they do. They're not perfect, and I don't agree with all of what they say. But here's a fact check that I found about them, and it's quite interesting. Okay? So this is actually from Snopes. Now, Snopes is pretty good about 80% of the time. As long as it's something not too political, they can get it correct. But there are many, many, many things that Snopes gets wrong all the time. But this is a story that we're going to check out today. Did Zelensky call for sanctions on, quote, any Christian caught worshiping in unapproved ways? This strain of misinformation was bolstered by an incorrectly placed quotation mark in a Tucker Carlson segment. Well, that kind of tells you where the author here, Alex, is at. Here's the claim. And with all fact-checking, if you go to a fact-checking site and they don't say what the claim is and then what their decision on it, that's not fact-checking. Okay, you actually have to state what you're fact-checking. I know it's kind of silly that there would be fact-checkers that don't even make a claim. They just say someone's wrong, but they don't say what they're wrong about. That happens a lot. But here, Snopes did it correctly. They have a claim. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's administration advocated personal, economic, and restrictive sanctions be applied to any Christian caught worshiping in unapproved ways. And their rating is false. Well, let's look at the context. Zelensky had advocated banning the Ukrainian Orthodox Church of the Moscow Patriarchate as part of sanctions on religious organizations affiliated with centers of influence in the Russian Federation. But the quote about, quote, any Christian caught worshiping in unapproved ways is an apparent invention of a Tucker Carlson monologue. Now, let's look at what the rating is, and then I'm going to get to this because there is some nuance to it, believe it or not. Okay? They have some different tools here for how they judge a fact check. Okay? So true, it indicates that the primary elements are demonstrably true. Mostly true is it's demonstrably true, but some of the ancillary details surrounding the claim may be inaccurate. Okay? Mixture, and they will give this to a lot of things, indicates that the claim has significant elements of both truth and falsity to such that it could not fairly be described by any other rating. Now, mostly false. This rating indicates that the primary element of the claim are demonstrably false, but some of the details surrounding it may be accurate. And false, that's what this story was rated. This rating indicates that the primary elements of the claim are demonstrably false. Okay? And that's what Snopes is saying here, that this is demonstrably false. And lastly, there's unfounded. That's if there's a claim, but there's no evidence to support it. So this could be rumors or hearsay, speculation, things like that. So in the original video, and I'm going to play Tulsi talking about this on Tucker's show.
You see no freedom of the press. He has shut down any media that he does not control, his government does not control. He has gotten political opposition arrested, made sure that that's happened. As you mentioned, he shut down the biggest Ukraine church in the country. And I found this quote today. He has actually threatened to punish, quote, any Christian caught worshiping in unapproved ways. So this is the democracy that they are saying, well, we need all of your money, our money, taxpayer dollars to go and defend. This is their shining example of democracy. It's no surprise then when we look at what's happening here at home, Tucker, and it's no surprise how we see the political and power elite so easily and willing to undermine our own democracy.
Okay, so that was the statement that Tulsi Gabbard had on Tucker Carlson. What's interesting, and you could think that they were in cahoots. I don't. But this quote actually originated a couple weeks earlier from the Tucker Carlson show, where he said it in one of his monologues. So she's just repeating back a quote that he had said a couple weeks prior. But when I look into what was claimed on this, the quote that personal, economic, and restrictive sanctions be applied to any Christian caught worshiping in unapproved ways. Usually things that are quotes, we can find the original and we can see how it's translated. Well, Snopes didn't do that. Snopes did not give us the original in Ukrainian or Russian. I'm not sure what the original statement was in. But we didn't get the original quote from Snopes to tell us that it's not there. I did look at some of the supporting material that had been translated, and originally Tucker said, quote, personal, economic, and restrictive sanctions will be applied to any Christian caught worshiping in unapproved ways. Okay, that's the claim. And when I have gone to the statement, so what's happening here is Zelensky did not care for the Kiev, the Orthodox Christian monastery in Kiev, and said that there was some activities there that were focusing on Russia, that were promoting Russian ideals. And so he sent the SBU to different monasteries, cultural cathedrals, etc., including the Kiev Monastery of the Caves, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and went in and searched it and closed up a lot of these. And did away with the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. That church actually, earlier last year when the war started, distanced itself from Russia, but I guess that doesn't matter. The claim is that there's some stuff happening in those churches, so he cannot allow those churches to meet, to exist. They're done, right? Now, it really comes down to interpretation, and I'm not carrying water for either Tucker or Tulsi. I could not find a direct quote, and I think what the big issue of the quote is any Christian caught worshiping in unapproved ways. The way that I read it is they were shutting down churches that were tied to Russia and would go, they would punish people that were doing any activity with that church. It could be interpreted as, when they say any Christian, well, obviously we're talking about Christians. We wouldn't talk about non-Christians would be doing anything at the Orthodox Church, Ukrainian Orthodox Church. We wouldn't have that. There wouldn't be a problem with Buddhists doing something at a Ukrainian Orthodox Church. So I don't know if the original text said any Christian or if that is part of the translation, part of the assumption. Maybe the translation said they, and someone interpreted it as any Christian. Don't know. It's not the best translation, but it's really difficult for me to actually translate it because I didn't get a direct quote in Russian. The only quotes I got were what were translated from the Ukrainian site. So I got this from president.gov.ua, which is the Ukrainian official website. And all I can go through is the translation that they put out. That doesn't mean that it couldn't be translated some other way. So what Snopes did here is they called this false. And remember, what we learned from false is false indicates that the primary elements of the claim are demonstrably false. Well, the primary claims, most of the claims that were in that quote are true. The only thing that I can find that was not in that quote was any Christian. And I think it was people, like naturalized people or something like that. And it wasn't any Christian, but it was any person. And caught worshiping in unapproved ways, that's a translation of doing the business of the church, what you do at church, worshiping at this church that is no longer allowed in Ukraine. So is it a good translation? I don't know. There's really not enough evidence for this. I would be interested to find out from Tucker if he can provide the original quotation. But Snopes also did not provide the original quotation in the language that it was. We just got a translation of it. So I don't know. There's a lot of different translations of things, and it can be done in different ways depending on what you want it to say. So in this case, if I had to choose, I would not say false. I might say mixture, because the claim has significant elements that are both true and false. And I don't even know that it's false. I might even say that it's mostly true or unfounded. But it's definitely not false. But this was a hard one for me, and it was hard for me to do because it's so much easier for me just to dunk on someone like Joe Biden, which is what I'll do next week. Because the claims that he was making today about what happened 2 years ago were bananas. Anyway, that is my thoughts on this. I will be streaming on Monday, and I'm getting better at this streaming stuff. I hope, So once that gets out of my head, I can concentrate more on what I'm saying and do a better job. But I will be reading your comments after I close this up. I hope you all are having fantastic and have a beautiful weekend. Talk to you soon. Peace.